I was 5 years old when my parents took me on my first road trip ever. I was so excited because I was about to see the Grand Canyon live, a natural beauty that no picture or video could ever capture at its fullest because it's just that awesome. So we all hopped in the car, ready to experience one of the best adventures of our lives. Or that's what I thought, until a big truck came out of nowhere and hit us directly from the side, right where I was sitting. I shielded myself from the impact with my hands, and suddenly the whole world went black, and I just fell asleep. When I woke up, I was surrounded by my parents and a bunch of doctors. My parents looked okay. They'd said I'd fainted for about 6 hours, and they were worried that I had irreparable brain damage, and it was a miracle that I was basically unharmed. And yes, I felt okay. I was okay, right? Except for my hands. My hands? I couldn't feel my hands. Why couldn't I move them? Where were they? I started screaming over and over again. My parents were like, "Lizzie, you're okay, calm down. Your hands are okay. They're just broken and you're in a cast." But I was inconsolable. I kept screaming, "I can't feel my hands. I can't feel my hands. What did you do to them?" I screamed and I screamed until I fainted all over again. Then when I woke up, I looked at my hands and they seemed okay. I could feel the inside of my cast, but I had this weird sensation, like I wasn't in control of them. But the months started to pass by, and the moment the doctors took the casts off of my hands, then I immediately knew there was something wrong with my body. Yes, I could move my hands, but I had no control of their movement. I wasn't in control of them. It was like they had their own conscience, and thus their own plans with my body. For example, if I wanted to grab a glass of water because I was thirsty, sometimes they would refuse to do so, and they wouldn't move until I had a long conversation with them, explaining that I could die if I didn't get water, and they would die with me as a consequence. Sometimes they would listen, sometimes they wouldn't. I don't know how to explain that I knew that, but I just knew. The left hand liked to do certain things that the right hand didn't like. For example, my left hand loved to build sculptures at school, but the right hand hated it. So sometimes I'd just allow the left hand to create something beautiful, and then my right hand would just completely destroy it. My right hand liked math class and all of the other boring subjects that I didn't want to take. Some days I'd wake up happy, and I'd get a 10 without even studying. But sometimes it would purposely write the wrong answers in my tests just because it was fun to ruin my life. The worst part of it is that I couldn't say anything about it because other kids would think that I was completely crazy. I bet you probably think so too. Heck, I thought so for a while. Sometimes I would throw my own stuff around in class without reason, and the other kids would just start laughing at me. For years, I was just the class clown. I even got suspended several times for just being a victim of my own body. I didn't have any friends because my hands would punch anyone that even dared to be friendly with me. They were isolating to the point that my hands were both my only friends and my worst enemies. Every day when I was about to fall asleep, I'd try to wake myself up without getting them up. I know how weird that sounds, but trust me, I just knew. The few times I succeeded, I was able to go through the internet searching for people like me, so I could understand my condition and maybe feel less alone. One night, I found an answer in a forum that took me completely by surprise. I found something called alien hand syndrome, a condition in which a person experiences their limbs acting seemingly on their own and without conscious control over the actions. According to both that person in the forum and Wikipedia, people usually experience this after an event that caused trauma to the brain, like a brain surgery, a stroke, infection, tumor, or aneurysm. And then one of the hands woke up. They saw what I was doing, and they were not happy with me. One of them opened the notes app on my phone and wrote, "We won't surrender." I was so scared, I started to scream, but they covered my mouth and kept it shut. I tried to run to my parents, but they closed the door in front of me. I had nowhere to escape, so I started kicking stuff with my feet until my parents listened and entered the room. "Oh my God, what is going on here?" my mom asked. "Mom, Dad, I need help," I told them. My parents got scared and they rushed me to the hospital. I told the doctors what I was feeling, and although some of them looked at me like I was crazy, others actually believed me, and they started running a whole bunch of analysis and tests. An MRI showed that my brain had a small patch in one of the hemispheres, an aneurysm. It was small, but big enough to cause problems for all these years. They said I needed surgery as soon as possible. After all these years, I was finally going to be free. A part of me was so happy that everything was going to come to an end. But deep inside, another part of me was a bit, sad. It's really kind of hard to describe it, like some weird form of Stockholm syndrome. When I entered the operating room, my hands started to throw things around. I had to be restrained until I could feel the effects of the anesthesia running through my body and finally fall asleep. I tried to say goodbye to my hands and to tell them how sorry I was for doing this, but I was so sleepy. The surgery was a success. When I woke up and I finally saw that I was in control of my movements, I cried loudly. Adapting to once again be the master of my own body has been pretty difficult, but I'm finally able to have friends to support me. Sometimes I'm scared to wake up and realize that I'm no longer in control. God, I really don't know if that'll happen. I hope not. But in the meanwhile, I get to grab whatever the hell I want.